Good morning everyone, I hope you have a fantastic day. It's Gabriel here, and today we're gonna create a login in JavaScript using Firebase. For those of you who are not familiar with it, Firebase is a platform owned by Google. It provides server-side services such as login, storage, cloud, notification, and much more. If you don't want to spend too much energy and time creating your own server-side, this is actually an excellent choice connecting a fast backend to your application. I'm gonna use Visual Studio Code to write my script. It's free and comfortable. I'll leave a link in the description if you like to use it. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. We are starting right now. Go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code and add 5 new files: login.html, main.html, login.javascript, main.javascript, and firebase.javascript. Clicking on the Ctrl and Space button together will open the snippet menu. Open up the login, Ctrl Space, and select the first HTML snippet. It will create an HTML template. Go ahead and change the main JavaScript to login JavaScript, get rid of the CSS, and I like to put the script in the body area. We need to add also the Firebase.javascript, and we will do the same process to the main. When you finish editing the HTML, go ahead and open up Firebase. Log in with your account and click on the Go to Console button. It will load your Firebase settings. In this window you will need to add a project, so click on the Add Project button. As you can see, I already have one. This is the Project Manager page. Select the Add Firebase to your web app and click on it. It will give you a snippet. Copy the snippet and go to the Login HTML page. Paste the code in the head area, and take everything that's inside the script and cut it. This code is responsible to initialize the Firebase application. That's why we are putting it in the Firebase JavaScript. I like to wrap the code with a self-invoke function, so everything inside is going to be private. So we will expose this global variable. I promise to do a future video explaining why it is a very good idea to wrap up your third-party objects. Firebase library should be added to all HTML pages, so go ahead and copy the Firebase library from the login and paste it on the main. So far we've just initialized the Firebase object, so now let's work on the login itself. Go back to Firebase and click on the Get Started on the Authentication tab. Question mark on the top right corner, select Authentication Developer Docs, go to the Guides tab, Authentication, Web, and click the first option. This is a pre-built UI provided by Firebase themselves. Click on it and scroll to the bottom, and now we will copy and paste a lot of code. Copy the UI config area, which is going to initialize the login UI. Paste everything on the login.js file, and like the previous JavaScript, I like to wrap everything in a self-invoke function, so all that is inside is going to be private. Now we need to set up where we want to be redirected to after the login is success. So we want to go to the main HTML. Terms of service URL, I accidentally put also the main, but you should put something else. Back to Firebase and copy the UI start function. It will inject the login interface to the HTML. The next snippet is 3 lines of HTML code. Take them and put them on the login HTML, which is where the login interface is going to be injected. Now if you notice, the UI object is not initialized, so this is going to initialize the UI object. Copy this line and put it on the login JavaScript. As you can see, the UI is actually the same UI over here. So the last thing we need to do is actually add a Firebase auth library. So scroll to the top and copy these 2 lines of code and paste them on the login HTML underneath the Firebase JavaScript. Go to the main HTML and put your own welcome text. Open up the login HTML page. Then you will be presented with the login interface. So you can see I have a little error. It happened because I opened the login HTML through the system file and not through a server. But it doesn't really matter because we're going to use the sign in with email, which requires only internet connection. So let's set up the login JavaScript so we can see only the email. Comment all the rest except the email auth provider. Going back to the login HTML, we can see only the sign in with email and no errors. Go back to Firebase sign in method under the Authentication tab and enable the email and password option. Mine is already enabled. Go back to the login HTML, put your email, click next. Firebase will check if the user exists. If not, it will prompt you with username and password. Signing in will redirect you to the main page. Under the user tab on Firebase Console, you can actually see the user has been created. So let's take a little coffee break before we continue, shall we? So now that you're enjoying a good cup of coffee, go back to the Authentication developer docs, go to the Reference tab and choose from the left menu JavaScript. Select the Firebase Auth and inside select the Auth option. On the right list you will see all the Firebase.auth methods. We will need the onAuth state change, click on it and copy the snippet on the example. Go to the main JavaScript, and basically what we want to do, we want to prevent anonymous user getting into the main HTML. So as always, I created this self-invoke function, paste the snippet we copied before. Now the onStateChange function is not only a function, but it is also an event registration. It means that if the user is not authenticated anymore, I'm going to get notified. So if I have a user authenticated, it means that he can stay. Otherwise, I have to redirect him to the login HTML. Another thing I like to do is to save the user ID, because it's being used a lot when we talk to the server, so if the user is not logged in, it's going to be reset to null. Let's create the logout function, and you can see that the only thing I need to do is call the signout method, and the onAuth state changed is going to handle the rest. Back to the main HTML, we are going to add a button called logout, and we will connect the onClick event to this logout function that we are exposing right now. And another thing I want to do is to use the Firebase object we created earlier in the Firebase JavaScript file. And again, as I told you in a future video, I will explain the benefits of using this approach. So go ahead and implement the onClick event on the button. So actually going back to the application and refreshing the page, we will see the logout button. Clicking on it will log us out, and you can see that even trying manually to change the address to the main HTML will actually prompt us out to the login again. This is because we are not authenticated, so only by relogin we can access the main HTML again. And it will stay, so if I'm in the main HTML and will refresh the page, it will stay. And again, pressing the logout button will send us to the login page. So that's it for me. I hope it wasn't too fast to catch. We have done a lot for a 7-minute video, and all of this using the Firebase platform. If it was helpful and you like to see more, click on the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.